G'day. Carlos Sainz says F1 TV broadcasts are too focused on celebrities and girlfriends following the Singapore Grand Prix. He was also critical of TV missing many of the more interesting on-track battles. Let's delve deeper. Carlos said on a radio interview earlier this week that the TV broadcasts failed to show any of the 4 or 5 overtakes of his at the end of the race. Nor did they show Fernando's pursuit of Lewis. They missed lots of on-track battles, according to Carlos, but the thing that was picked up by the mainstream media was his comments about celebrities and girlfriends getting too much screen time. He said it's becoming a bit of a trend, which must have worked for them once upon a time when people found it interesting to see our girlfriends, to see famous people on TV. When I read that, I thought, all right, I'm going to go back and look at the telecast, because I typically, as a photographer of F1, rarely get a chance to watch a whole race. So I did that. I sat down in front of the television, I had a pen and paper, and I've come up with a whole host of stats, but I'll get to that in just a second. In the meantime, a reminder that you can pre-order my Best of 2025 photo books, the regular and the jumbo size, now at the shop at kimelman.com. They'll be finalised the day after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and can be with you in most countries before Christmas. Back to Carlos's comments. Firstly, the Sky coverage uses the same vision that goes to all the broadcast partners. So Americans will see this coverage on ESPN, French will see it on Canal+, and so on. And while the coverage is produced by a mostly British team, they do have to be mindful that this is a world feed. Flipping around social media, I saw lots of comments saying that the telecast was littered with shots of girlfriends. So I'm expecting lots of shots, given that there were 8 girlfriends at this race. I'm about 24 minutes into the race, and I'm just watching this at double speed, and every time a driver's girlfriend or a team principal pops up on screen, I press pause, and then I go and time the action. Well, here's Maggie there. I then revert to 1 speed, get my stopwatch ready, press play, wait for Maggie to disappear off screen, and get a timing of 7.8 seconds. Now, from lights out to just after the checkered flag, the race broadcast ran for 1 hour and 41 minutes. Now, during that time, how many girlfriends did they show? 5, 6, 2. Rebecca Donaldson at the back of Carlos's garage for 8 seconds, and Lando's girlfriend Maggie for 7 seconds. Now that is a total of 15 seconds in a telecast that ran 6,060 seconds. Now that's 0.25% of the telecast focused on 2 girlfriends. Is that overkill? On top of that, there was a shot of Lance's sister and her husband Scotty James for 7 seconds, and the only other time they cut away from track action was to show Toto Wolff for 15 seconds, the McLaren crew on pit wall 6 times for a total of 36 seconds, and then single shots of Fred Vassar, Bono, VCARB's team manager Peter Bayer, and Aston Martin's team principal Andy Cowell, each for about 7 seconds. That's a total of about 86 seconds, or a little over 1% of the coverage. But what about post-race? Well, a different story there. George's girlfriend Carmen dominated there. She was on screen 5 times in just 24 minutes for a total of 31 seconds, and Maggie popped up for 3 seconds. And interestingly, the longest shot of all of the girlfriends, the 3 that appear in this video, is this shot here of Carmen down in Parc Fermé post-race, and as you can see, it pulls back to reveal me talking to her about pictures I'd taken of George and her when George had come over to celebrate. Now remember, George had no other family at that race, so Carmen was the only friend or family member the director could cut to for that personal connection. In the past, Lando's parents have been focused on in Parc Fermé and during the race, and I'll come back to that in a little while. Oscar's manager Mark Webber's also been focused on, as has Max's dad, so there's nothing unusual there. Now I understand why F1 cuts to those shots, because I guess all of us want to see that human reaction. If something exciting is happening to Lando, Maggie, or Adam or Siska, we'll be most likely to react. Same with Rebecca or Carlos Sr. when it comes to Carlos Jr. Certainly Formula One is focused on showing the more human side of the sport, so I can't see them changing that strategy anytime soon. Perhaps, though, they might see some of these comments and then react to them. But the thing I think was the more important part of Carlos's comment in that radio interview was the fact that the F1 coverage didn't show many of the important battles, and he featured in many of those. They missed the Alonso-Hamilton battle, which in hindsight turned out to be one of the most interesting, given that Lewis had no brakes over those last 2 laps. The comment on Sky's coverage was pertinent. We're watching McLaren celebrating. We should be watching the track here, because Fernando Alonso, who was 43 seconds behind Hamilton, crosses the line 0.4 of a second behind him. But it's important to note that they weren't crossing to Carmen or Maggie at that time. They were showing the McLaren crew celebrating and other goings-on in Parc Fermé. Flipping around the internet today, I've come across a couple of stories like this one from Australia here. Carlos fuming He wasn't fuming, he made a comment. And in that article, it also said all three were shown regularly during the race, with viewers treated to 2 shots of Carmen post-race. Well, that's wrong. 3 weren't shown regularly, it was just 2, and for, as I mentioned earlier on, 15 seconds in total. And Carmen popped up 4 times post-race. The thing is, with that TV coverage, you have to get the balance right, and that's no mean feat, but the comments I've seen are pretty heavily swayed in the camp of Max and Lando dominated the coverage, to the exclusion of most everything else. It's also clear from reading those comments that people don't mind when they cut to a family member for a reaction shot. They just don't want those long zooms cutting away from action when something's about to happen. Now that last bit can be very tricky because a director doesn't know when something's about to happen. If they cut away to, say, Alexandra at the precise moment a tyre blows, they'll probably cop a hiding online. If there's no way to know that that tyre was going to blow, I don't think you can hold a director responsible for that. But they have cameras everywhere, so a replay is not out of the question. Another thing, not all the girlfriends watch the race from the garage. Many of them watch it from the hospitality suite. And I've seen Pierre Gasly's parents watching the race from a grandstand in Monaco, and Yuki's dad was at the race on the weekend watching at least one of the practice sessions from the grandstands there. It'd be interesting to see if Formula One TV meets and discusses the reaction that has come about because of Carlos's comments here. I don't think you would cut the number of girlfriend shots from 2, total 15 seconds, to anything less than that. I think that's perfectly fine. What I think they might want to consider is those slow zooms into the girlfriends. Let me go to a couple of these comments here. Captain Adjective says it must be infuriating for partners to have a camera with a bright light zooming in on their face. Well, let me put your mind at rest. Typically those cameras do not have bright lights on them, and often they're 4 or 5 meters away from the girlfriend. This comment might be a good solution. Just show the crowd, family or girlfriend reaction shots in a little picture in one of the corners. That way you give the viewer the option to focus on the girlfriend or the family member or stay with the racing. YOLO Sum says that showing their girlfriends 500 times a race is getting annoying. I'm not sure what race you're watching, but I didn't see 500. I thought 2 during the race was palatable. And this comment, the main issue with constantly showing footage of family members or girlfriends is that they aren't reacting. Now, a good point there. It would be great to have cameras trained on those important people for the whole race. That's a big investment of time and gear in the hope that something happens that gets you a great reaction shot. In Parc Ferme, it's a different matter because you know that when a driver goes to his girlfriend, you are going to get an emotional moment. So did Formula One management respond to those comments from Carlos? Well, indeed they did, saying that it seeks to strike a balance between on-track action and context moments showing the reactions from friends and family. We always focus on giving our fans the best possible footage of the race and never compromise the key focus, the racing on track. And I think the statistics that I've shown you here, that a total of less than 2% of the coverage is anything but what's happening on track, reinforces that. If you go back to past races, particularly with shots of Lando's parents in the garage and at Parc Ferme, I've seen lots of comments stating that was too much. I can't remember which race that was, and I would have liked to have done the same stats that I've done here for those instances. And if it comes up again, I will certainly be on top of that. But I think you and I both realise that those shots are important, particularly when there is emotion playing out. But a shot of just somebody standing watching a television screen doesn't tend to be that interesting. Let's go back to that Alonso versus Hamilton battle in the final couple of laps. Have you heard the audio from Fernando's car? It is hilarious. Hell, mate, I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I mean, I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. Is it safe to drive with no brakes? Fernando was clearly gobsmacked that Lewis was still continuing on without the brakes, but I thought Lewis's response on social media was gold.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
For me, that's the sort of battle that should have been focused on track. But then, what do? Do you cut away from the celebration of McLaren because you're going to get people, particularly McLaren fans, going crazy over that? Or do you leave that for people to find well after the race finishes, say on social media or in video highlights on the F1 app? One thing's for sure, I would not like to be a director of an F1 coverage with so many different cameras, vision and audio coming from everywhere, and you have to determine under pressure what it is that most of the people watching will want to see. Much easier to just take photographs, I can assure you of that. I've decided to come back and have a look at another race, so I've gone back to the Monza Grand Prix, and I can tell you that the race lasted a total of 64 minutes, and there were 4 crosses two girlfriends in that race. There were 2 crosses to Rebecca Donaldson. Esteban Ocon's girlfriend Flavie Bala was on screen for 6 seconds, and Max's partner Kelly Piquet on screen for 7 seconds. So in total, there were 4 appearances and about double the length of time as what the girlfriends had in Singapore. And post-race, what happened there? Well, Kelly Piquet dominated proceedings. 3 appearances totaling some 26 seconds in 19 minutes, which is about double the time a girlfriend appeared on screen after the race had finished. Still, I think we've got more to worry about in our lives than how long a girlfriend or partner might appear on an F1 telecast. Now, given you've stuck it out to the end, I want to give you a thumbs up for that. Thank you very much. And before you leave, could you please hit the like button? And for those unsubscribed, give that a crack too. I'd love to have you on board. And for a whole lot of extra content, merchandise and stuff, head over here and have a look. Thanks for watching and stay passionate. That's a total of about... It's the worst ever controller.